Okay,
Next
let's
time I'll put a
get
camera in here,
started.
a remote camera so I can watch. Can't see anything.
Ah, Ray's here. Good timing, Ray.
Mm.
Come on in, grab a seat.
I think you're perfectly timed.
Perfectly timed. Ah, take a deep breath and a long exhalation. Ah, and a second one, and make a nice sigh sound on the way out. Ah. And one more. Hmm. And feel the breath moving in, moving out. And just tune into gratitude for this vehicle we call the body. It really can do an amazing number of things for us. The temple, the vehicle for this plane while we're here. Its cells are listening to every thought we have. There's a scary thought. The cells are listening to every thought we have. So the way we speak to the body, the way we treat the body, it all has impact. What we put into the body. Turns out there's more serotonin receptors, neuroreceptors in the gut, in the heart, than in the brain. So what we put in affects everything. Everything's connected to everything. Gratitude for this vehicle. I wouldn't say worship, I would say gratitude. I was thinking about worship. Why worship? Certainly, Source is not so narcissistic that it needs that kind of praise. The ego is, but not Source. Why do we do that? And I gradually figured out it's because we become that which we worship. It moves our identification more and more to that. What is the source of the energy of the body? Is it simply the biological processes? Are we just a bunch of cells walking around? If you continue to believe that and you continue to drive your identity into the body, then that's what you become more of that. You experience more of that. Then the biology starts to have a greater and greater impact on the total experience. But are we the body? What is the source? We know everything's energy. E equals mc squared. That's just an equation for physical energy. We know from the sages that the non-physical dimension is far greater than the physical dimension. What is the source? Where's the life force come from? The yogis talk about the pranic body. Which is a body that holds the physical body, that sends the life force into the cellular structures of the physical body. We know there's other bodies contained, in other bodies contained, more subtle bodies, until it goes back to source. Source energy. Interestingly enough, Course in Miracles says that the body cannot create anything on its own. It is simply a teaching vehicle. It reflects that which is held in the mind. And if you doubt that, think about what your body did the last time you thought a police car was following you. We talk about the body storing things, the body keeping score. It certainly reflects things to us. But how much is stored in the body and how much is stored in the mind, where the mind drives the condition of the body? Course in Miracles says all healing is of the mind, which happens to map to Christian Science as well. So anytime there's something going on in the body, it's helpful to ask to be shown what's the component in the mind that needs to be healed or released. And then take it one step further. What is the healing force? Well, the healing force is the same source as the source of all of life. So, let's invite it in. Let's invite it into the mind, the healing force, also known as unconditional love. Invite it into the mind. Invite it into the body. Invite it into the circumstances of life. It's all connected. It's all connected. And the more we feel like we need to control things, The more we put blocks in, how did I know that was David doing that? The more we feel a need to control things, the more that need puts blocks into the flow. I'm going to use that as our launch point for tonight's discussion. I'm going to read a little bit from this book, Illusions, Richard Bach book, Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. It's a fun little book. This is to set up tonight's conversation. It's a subsection from the beginning of it. A millman spoke and said, I'm going to back up one step. This master said unto them, within each of us lies the power of our consent to health and to sickness, to riches and to poverty, to freedom and to slavery. It is we who control these and not another. Who's making the noise? David, turn your stuff off. A millman spoke and said, easy words for you, master, for you are guided as we are not, and need not toil as we toil. A man has to work for his living in this world. The master answered and said, once there lived a village of creatures along the bottom of a great crystal river. The current of the river swept silently over them, all, young and old, rich and poor, good and evil, the current going its own way, knowing only its own crystal self. Each crystal in its own manner clung tightly to the twigs and the rocks of the river bottom, for clinging was their way of life, and resisting the current, what each had learned from birth. But one creature said at last, I'm tired of clinging, though I cannot see it with my eyes. I trust that the current knows where it is going. I shall let go and let it take me where it will. Clinging, I shall die of boredom. The other creatures laughed and said, fool, let go, and that current you worship will throw you, tumbled and smashed across the rocks, and you will die quicker than boredom. But the one heeded them not, and taking a breath, did let go, and at once was tumbled and smashed by the current across the rocks. Yet in time, as the creature refused to cling again, the current lifted him free from the bottom, and he was bruised and hurt no more. And the creatures downstream, to whom he was a stranger, cried, see, a miracle! A creature like ourselves, yet he flies. See the Messiah come to save us all. And the one carried in the current said, I am no more Messiah than you. The river delights to lift us free, if only we dare let go. Our true work is this voyage, this adventure. But they cried the more, Savior, all the while clinging to the rocks. And when they looked again, he was gone, and they were left alone, making legends of a Savior. There is this stream. There is this flow. There is this incredible flow of, call it what you will. It's energy. We're made of it. And it's constantly here. It's not demanding anything from us. It's available. It knows what it's doing. It's an infinite intelligence. And it's available to everyone. It really doesn't care what you did, what you didn't do, are you good, are you bad, none of the duality stuff. It doesn't care. It knows where it's going. It knows what's the best in us, what kind of things give us joy. It knows how to use us and express through us in a way that takes advantage of that which we are perfectly created to express, the exact skill set we're given. The skill set that brings us joy, life, contentment, peace, prosperity, the whole thing. And all we have to do is open to it and let go of the clinging. The Buddha says the clinging of the mind is the source of all suffering. It takes two forms. It's either a pushing away of something that the mind doesn't want, because it feels uncomfortable with it, or a clinging because it's something the mind does want and it's afraid it's going to lose it. And if the natural state, if it's not just the natural state of the universe, if you will, is flow, if it's our natural state, and we're clinging and trying to stop and go against the flow, there's the source of suffering. So why do we do it? Well, as they said in here, they're all born into that. We do it because we're taught to do it. Oh, that thing's invisible. You can't trust that thing. You're going to die if you just let go. But I can tell you from very direct experience how incredible this force, this field, this flow is when we just let it come through. We invite it through. In religious terms, you could say it's thy will be done. So throw the religious dogma, throw that all away. Because beneath even the religious stuff, the original source of information has truth there. It just got dogmatized and categorized and organized and removed from direct experience. The Native Americans, there's this one Native American, I don't know who said it, but he was talking to a Christian or a religion. He goes, "You people talk about God. We talk to God." So we're in relationship to this flow, whether we know it or not. Could be in denial of it. You could say that's nonsense, that's fairy tale stuff. I can't tell you how many people I talk about with this and they say, well, that's just giving up. You're just not taking responsibility for your life. We were going down the Grand Canyon, the Colorado, for 16 days a couple of years ago. Down the mighty Colorado. That is one flow, let me tell you. So we're on the Colorado. Now, if we thought we were going to decide where to go in that river, we'd be in trouble, because now we're at odds with the flow. So what's the level of responsibility in that kind of a situation?
Let go.
It's to, yeah. And if we do just let go in this metaphor, it's not even a metaphor. If we just let go, we will get thrown into rocks. We can get caught in eddies.
So you listen to where the river's telling you to go.
Ah, here we go. So we develop a certain skill set, or in our case, the guides we worked with, right? But just imagine we're on there. They know the flow. They know the currents. They know the terrain. They know what, and their role is in how to navigate that flow. But once you're in, we put in at the very top at mile 0. And once we put in, the next stop, basically, it was mile 274. It's like you're along for the ride now. And so what is it at that moment? Do we try to decide where the river goes? No. All we have to do is know how to navigate the flow. That's knowing how to use our mind. That's knowing how to allow emotions and feelings to be present. That's knowing how to tune up the instrument of the temple of the body. That's knowing how to work it all together. That's doing the right practices to meditate, to be quiet so that we could start to hear, to start to feel where it wants to go. That's where we start to pay attention to what's the difference between when the separate self wants to push its agenda and when it's able to just relax and allow this greater force to work. And so it's essentially us learning to navigate the flow, to feel the flow, to tune into the flow. And that's a whole lot easier than worrying about where life's taking me, worrying about what's going to come at me. How am I going to get my bills met? How am I going to, oh boy, there goes this boil on my skin. Is it going to be skin cancer? It's like over and over and over and over. And it's just like one anxiety thing after another. And so what happens is the separate self says, it's first of all, the separate self, until it learns otherwise, doesn't even know of the flow. It doesn't believe in the flow, right? The way the Course puts it is that Course in Miracles, it's like the ego denies God and then installs itself on the throne. And that's where it says you basically have one choice, which voice you're going to listen to, the voice of Source or the voice of the ego. That's it. We've talked about this in different disguises. And if we're listening to the voice of the ego, it says, I know what I need to do. I have to know what I need to do because it's only me against these big forces. And that's cutting itself off. It doesn't even believe that there's a flow that it's in. And so it's moving around trying to deal with this and deal with that and deal with this and deal with that and then project and plan, project and plan and project and plan. And all that energy is diverted from a natural creative flow that's our birthright. No, not a creative flow, a creation flow. That flow is creation in action. You look at the nature of the universe, the physical universe, and everything about it is dynamic. There's not a single thing in this universe that is not in flow. Not a thing. That rock is sitting there. Oh, is it? Look at the molecule. Look at the molecule. Look at the atoms that make it up. Nothing is static. It's in a constant dynamic flow, constant dynamic flow, constant dynamic flow. And every time the mind says, I need to know in order to be able to predict, in order to be able to control potential threats so I could protect myself. That's the chain of thought. What it does is it's trying to throw static knowledge into an infinite flow. And I saw it crystal clear one time. Crystal clear. And every one of those places where it's like the mind wants to create a database of strategies so that if X happens, it knows what to do. If Y happens, it knows what to do. Now, it turns out that X or Y happens, it's never what the mind was trying to figure out and predict. So therefore, its strategies are useless.
But ironically, what you're describing is called a flow chart.
It's a flow chart. That's true. That is, ironically, it's called a flow chart. It's fine for software. It's not fine for the way your life works. So what happens is, if the flow is dynamic, if the flow is continuous, but not just random, with an incredible intelligence, and if that's what we are, then every piece of static knowledge that the mind wants to accumulate and hold on to, which includes, by the way, what that thing we call the past, the story, history, herstory, those are all bits of knowledge. Every one of those things are things the mind clings to. Every one of those things are rocks, obstacles in the infinite flow that we are. Get this, the infinite flow where what this moment is has never been before and will never be again. This moment in our body, this moment in our psyche, this moment in the flow of this incarnation, this moment in the totality of everything, ever new joy, ever new creation. And when we could trust and let go, then let's get into what we think letting go means. The very least, the start of that incessant need to control things, to predict, to plan for a threat, and be ready for it. Every one of those things we can let go of, we're actually safer. Which is ironic because the mind says, I have to know everything and control everything to keep you safe. It's not the way it works.
What's challenging for me is to keep track of the rate.
The rate of change,
Yes.
which is
And
getting
that's-
faster.
Well, it seems to be.
Now, you talking about the world? Or are you talking about you and your
I
body?
think it can be applied to any dimension,
Mm-hmm.
any aspect of my reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm constantly redefining the rate. Is this a good day? Is this a boring day? Is this exciting day? It's all changing, but at what rate is it changing with respect to what my expectations are of the time frame that I live in as a human being on this planet now?
So,
And as I age, that change,
Yeah.
slowing down
Yeah.
as I age. And so it appears, to my perspective, things are speeding up.
oh, it's not just
But it
because
could
you're
be
getting
just me
older.
slowing down.
It's not
It's a
just.
frame of reference.
It's not just that. Everything in the world is moving faster, in case you haven't noticed. The rate of change, including the rate of change,
Right.
it's
Right, that's the second derivative.
it's a second derivative of the
Yeah,
of the rate
yeah,
of change.
yeah.
Exactly right. And so, what's one thing that's interesting is it's that the way you described it. Your resolution is on a day basis,
Right.
and so you're in time in the way you're looking at everything.
Right.
That's right.
I tend to
Okay.
organize it.
Now come into the present right now.
Okay.
And be in the present right now.
Okay.
And stay in the present right now.
Okay.
What's the rate of the change of the now?
It's not.
Exactly, because it's not in time.
Right.
And so the mind is in time. The mind lives in time. The mind lives in time, which means it bounces constantly between the past and the future. And now, where does the past and the future actually exist?
In your mind.
Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is reality?
But you're saying there is flow, so that implies time is passing.
Yeah, there's
This is, yeah,
well, I think that's actually not even the case.
okay.
The metaphors we're using, because we have a neurology, because we do very much live in a
Right.
timeline at one level,
Right.
is means we perceive it in that sense.
It's interesting.
But there's two axes going on simultaneously the way my model works.
Okay.
There's a horizontal axis and there's a vertical.
Okay.
Okay? The horizontal is what we call time, duality. Right? If in NLP, my NLP neurolinguistic programming training, we did a whole bunch of work around how people create and perceive their own timelines. And we'd go around interviewing people.
Okay.
And my timeline is like I have the past over here on the left, and it goes through, and the future's on the right. And some people have cards that come at them, and some people have this panorama, and it's really interesting. These are all mind constructions.
Sure. Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the interesting thing about the mind and time is it really has two major points it bounces between, the past and the future. And then it has this thing called the moment, but in its own perception, it's imperceptibly thin, right? There's no place to stand in a moment. So so the mind, which needs to grasp, it can't deal with simplicity because it needs some complexity to grab onto. So it's just basically the way it works. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing that's wrong with that is when you think you're the mind and you let it be the master. Now you're in trouble. Because it's going to it requires, in order for it to have traction, to do its processing, it needs time, and it needs to bounce between the past and the future and the past and the future. And so what it's doing is but reality doesn't exist in the past and the future. And so what it does is it steps over, if you will, it deletes reality. Isn't that interesting? And so, but when we come into reality, which means be in presence, that's not in time. It's here now. You know, my first business trip, I went from New York to Japan, and I get off the plane and I go, wow, isn't this interesting? I just traveled 10,000 miles and I'm still here.
Yes.
So we're always here, always now. And so what is rate of change in the presence when there is no time? Isn't that interesting? So what's going on is you watch how the mind calibrates its own version of reality, because that's all it is. Its own version, but it's not reality. And so when you see that and you go, well, the rate of change is going faster, everything's going faster, and if I have to be able to track everything in order to be safe, this is the undercurrent of the mind, then the anxiety goes up. In case you haven't noticed, anxiety, I always say, is a pretty much all-time high on the planet almost now, pretty much. And it's going faster and it's getting up there. And so I've just been working on this I've just put this into the book I'm working on. Think of things as a wheel, right? And the wheel's moving at a certain rate. And what happens when you put more energy into that wheel? It starts to move faster and faster and faster. And now, what's going on in that wheel? There are two fundamental forces of physics happening, and there's angular velocity, or forget about that. There's centripetal and centrifugal force. Right. One's the outgoing force, and one's the ingoing force. And the faster that wheel goes, the stronger those forces go. And so I've been noticing, I can actually pinpoint it in my own awareness of it. Somewhere around 1987, things started getting faster. And then I started noticing around 94, 95, things get a little bit faster. In 2016, it seemed to take a step function, getting faster and faster and faster. Now, what's going on when something goes faster, the centrifugal force, the outgoing force, if your consciousness, if your attention is outward focused, the dynamics of the faster rate of change is going to pull your attention out there faster. More force is pulling you away from yourself. If your consciousness is more fundamentally inward going, the centripetal force will pull you inwards more. In other words, this time right now on the planet, the nature of the flow of the energy is that depending on which way you place your attention, will get pulled faster, more easily. And that, to me, I just kind of feel like I got a clarity about the physics of how awakening can happen faster right now. What is awakening? Well, number one, it's becoming lucid within this thing called the dream, but it's also where your center is located. If somebody's outward going, they're running away from their self, because where is your self located? Is it the center of the center of the center, the still point? Where is the still point within the infinite here? Where's the center? Everywhere. And the more you allow the flow, you just put your attention inwards, the more you allow the flow to just work through you, which is to say, let go and trust what it's doing, the more I find myself stabilized in the center of my being. What is it that emanates from the center of one's being? What have you noticed when you're in center? What do you notice about your experience? Wendy just took a big sigh.
It's a place of peace,
Place of peace.
and there's a different energy.
A different
And
energy.
it's as if the energy within you and without you becomes one.
Right.
I wrote about it this morning.
Of course you did. Because we're in flow.
Right. No, but it's fabulous.
Now, that's one direction and that's one choice. Okay? The other one is you could put your attention on MSNBC and Fox News and what's going on in the world. And then what do you notice from that experience?
Fear.
Fear,
Yeah,
anxiety,
Yeah.
tension,
right.
lack of safety,
Judgment.
everything. It's like very
Thought.
destabilizing, very destabilizing. That's what's going on right now.
You give up your power.
You give up your power. Right. All of that is what's at play right now. And it's equally available to everyone, but you have to choose where to place your attention. Energy flows where attention goes. And so, and think of it this way more. It's like wherever you place your attention, you are aligning your consciousness with that direction. Now, what's going outside? And if you put it in terms of waveforms and relative waveforms to each other, that's called relationship, right? You have, if you pluck a C and an E on a piano, you have two notes or two waveforms that are in harmonic relationship to each other. And it feels good. If you pluck a C and a C sharp, you have two waveforms that are in relationship to, and they're dissonant, and it feels disturbing to your nervous system. That's the difference between the inward and the outward flow. And you know it. You know it. What your question was based on your nervous system knowing that. And how do I deal with that? Yeah, Rafa.
Can you confirm or deny the validity of my interpretation to what you're saying, the river kayaking metaphor, which would be if the river flowing at a certain speed, rocks you passed, rocks coming up in front of you, the ego thinking it needs to stay safe by like scanning all the rocks and determining which way to go, whatever. Thinking about the rocks that were behind you. That one's skimming my arm. Fuck. Oh, there's these other ones coming up. And then there's like the practice of just letting the river tell you where to go.
Yes.
Just trust the river.
Yes.
And you trust what the river is telling you to do.
Yeah.
You actually don't need to think about any of the shit in the river. It just tells you where to go. Now, the rate of change, it'd be like maybe you're at a part of the river where it's going 3 times as fast.
Yeah.
There's 3 times as many rocks passing you.
Yeah.
And so it's easy for the ego to go, oh, fuck, there's like multiple.
That's right, because its survival is under threat.
But the practice of surrendering to the river's guidance for you and trusting that it's telling you where to go actually is the same.
Yes, it
Even
is.
if there's 3 times as many rocks.
Absolutely. That's exactly right.
It's the same.
And extending it to our relationship to this flow we're talking about, it is we can trust the river and where it's taking us. Yeah. It's not going to throw us off class 20 rapid.
Although to the ego, it might feel scary.
It may feel scary at times. Yes. Right.
It's like I'm trusting it to tell me what to do at 20 miles an hour versus, or whatever.
Right. This level of intelligence, because the truth is, when we are really in tune with what we are the flow.
Yeah, could I add to that?
Yeah, Scott.
So what you're saying, when you're saying that, I was kind of getting this idea. I go, actually, even though that speeds up, everything slows down. And I've noticed this skiing. When I am trying to figure out, and I'm a medium skier, so when I try to figure out what I'm going to do next, everything feels difficult.
Mm.
But when I go with the flow,
Totally.
use that,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden everything slows down
Yep.
and is in alignment.
It's almost relatively slowing down more because the center contrast to that is slower.
And the reason being is the more you are feeling the flow, the more you are in the here now, and there's no time in here now.
Yeah.
Have you noticed when you get into a near accident, there's this interesting phenomenon, all of a sudden everything seems to go in slow motion for a little bit?
Yep.
Because your consciousness is being forced into the presence. Anybody here a Steph Curry fan?
Who?
Steph Curry. Oh, you're from Nevada. Yeah, this is
I'm from the Bay Area.
No, I know. He's one of the greatest basketball players ever. He's one of the greatest three-point shooters ever. And here's why I'm mentioning it. The guy's a Jedi. What you notice when you watch him play is he's running and he stops and he shoots. The less time between the stop and the release of the ball, the higher percentage chance that ball's going into the basket. And back to what you're saying, Rafa, what changed is he's not thinking. He's feeling it. He could feel the field of everybody around him. He throws that ball sometimes as if he's got eyes in the back of his head because he could feel the field. And that's what it is with us. So when I'm skiing, I'm right there with you, Scott, on it. When I'm skiing, the thing I love about it is I am in a full in-body meditation. Elena and I have skied together a lot. She's seen me do this. I am just in a dance down and I'm like not thinking. When I'm playing drums, many of you have been with me when I do that. I am not thinking. I'm feeling it. It's playing through me. I'm in real time. It's not real time. I'm in time because it's a rhythm, but that's just like incidental. It's like boom, 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 boom. It's just playing through. And here's what I do for myself as a meditation is I'll sit in here and I'll play and I'll turn up the complexity and I'll turn up the complexity because the more I turn up the complexity, the more I have to relax into the rhythm because if my mind comes in with a single thought, I lose it. These are all practices and metaphors that I'm suggesting you find your way. What is your rhythm? What is your flow? What is your relationship with that flow? And like notice how much distance is there in your mind between you and that? Because ultimately there's no distance in reality. The only thing that creates the separation is the ego mind. And it does it out of fear. Its role at one level is to keep the body alive, but it has become imbalanced. I'm writing something up in one of the sections of this book now, and this really interesting neuroscientist, Ian McGilchrist, did a lot of work on the divided brain. So, which is to say the people who've had to have the corpus callosum cut, which is that the highway between the two hemispheres, because it normally would communicate with each other. And what he discovered all sorts of interesting things. And what he said basically is that over years, over decades, hundreds, thousands of years, the left brain, which is the linear in time ego, the seat of the ego, if you will, has colonized the overall consciousness of the human. So it's outsized.
Western man.
In Western, right. In the West, you're right, correct. Thank you for that. In the West, it has overgrown its dominance and it's crowded out the signals from the right brain, which is the place where the holistic knowledge, the knowingness of the now comes through. And that's why we can create technologies, because it's got incredible capacity, but it's why we can create technologies that can destroy everything, because the other part that's supposed to come in and say, hey, that doesn't feel right, don't do that, is shut down. Right. Knowledge comes through the left brain.
Integration.
Wisdom comes through the intuitive heart, which is amplified through the right brain. And so there are these imbalances. So the ego mind, which is, again, its job is to keep us safe, but it's overblown. It steps in and it creates the separation, the perception of the separation between us and ourself, between us and the flow. And then it gets fearful. So if you cut off the flow and then you look out there and they're saying the job market is really bad and 10,000 people just got laid off and there's 400 people applying for every job, what's the linear ego mind going to do?
Yeah.
It's going to go, oh no. And what it's going to do then, it's going to get into fear. And what do you think the fear does? It cuts off the flow. And where's the source of the income? We talked about this. We did 2 satsangs on it. Where's the source of your income? Most people will say, my job. No. The source of your income is the flow. Where's the source of your safety? People will say it's in my bank account. It's in my gun rack. It's in my political tribe. We're going to squash the other ones. It's in the military. No. None of that is safe. None of it. People amass billions of dollars out of greed because they're afraid of losing it all. They're out of touch with the flow. People push the military because they don't feel safe. The more outward going your consciousness, the more separation. Because in our stories, in our bodies, we appear as all separate. The more inward going, the more we are one.
Question.
Go ahead, Kim.
I was listening to something on mindfulness, but it said mainly being mindful is just to focus on what's in front of you. That's kind of like flow. Just to kind of pay attention to what's happening right now.
It is the portal to the flow state. Right. Oh, and thank you for mentioning that, because there is this thing called a flow state that Michael Csikszentmihalyi, I think that's how you pronounce his name, he wrote the book on flow.
Yes.
But he's talking about getting into a flow state like that state that Steph Curry is in when in a very acute situation. And that's what they focus on. But what I started realizing 6-7 years ago now, as I started working through my own history and family trauma and stuff, which allowed me to become ever increasingly more present, because trauma takes you out of the now. Because trauma has always got you in time. But the more I started releasing that and feeling safer inwardly, what I started noticing is my consciousness was just becoming more automatically more and more present. See, that's our natural state. The trauma is an unnatural state. So we're pulled away from our natural state. But as that stuff gets released, then we find ourselves more and more in here now. And what I started noticing is the more that was the case, the more I was noticing I was in a flow state. But I don't mean those kind of flow states. I mean, I was in a state where synchronicity was 24/7. Walking into the right place at the right time. I seemed to make I meant to make a right turn, but circumstances forced me into making a left turn. And I could have gotten all uptight, but no, this is the flow. The universe just reoriented me because for all I know, 6 months down the line, I need to move into a place where I meet somebody, and it just set that up. This is what I'm talking about. We don't know. The linear mind is not capable of knowing. But being what we are the infinite intelligence. We know, but it's not small k, it's capital K. And so the sign, how you're in sync with that truth of yourself, is the nature of synchronicity in your life. Things just falling in your lap.
Acceptance.
Acceptance of what is. And okay, so what if it goes and goes and goes and goes, and it's like I let go like they had in the book over here. You're going to get smashed in the rocks. You're going to die. Well, okay. We're going to exit somehow, somewhere. Ramana Maharshi says nobody leaves a moment too soon or a moment too late. It's all set up already. David Hawkins said the moment you're born, your exit date is already set. It's all done. It's all done. So relax. That's what finally allowed me to move to Santa Cruz. For years, like I knew I wanted to leave New York, and I thought I was going to move to New Mexico and be a healer or something. And I said, like, I had friends out here and said, I am not moving to California. They have earthquakes. Anybody hit the big earthquake the other night in the middle of the night? Yeah. We got jolted pretty well. So I said, no, they have earthquakes. And then I came out to visit a friend, and I came out to Santa Cruz for the first time a month before October of 1989.
Really?
And 1 month before. And then I went home, back in New York, and the earthquake hits. And I'm talking to friends who were living in Aptos, and they lived in this home for 14 years, and the home just pancaked. And the home was being heated and run by propane tanks. There were 4 tanks, and the hoses broke, and it's going, and he's just saying, holy shit. And he just thought this whole thing can blow up, and nothing happened. And he said to me, he goes, I realized in that moment, until it's your time, nothing can take you. And when it is your time, nothing will keep you here. And in that moment, like a bowling ball went down an alley and blew everything out of the water. And I said, oh, I'm moving to Santa Cruz. I just knew it. It wasn't a decision. And so the flow, you let it go. We let go. What is it we're letting go of? Control, the need to control, the fear that comes with that, the anxiety that comes with that, the overthinking. They all reinforce each other. So which is to say, you let go of thoughts in real time. You don't try to push them away. You just let them come and go. You just let them, like when, it's like you're staying here and you're watching the sky, and what's going on? Clouds come, clouds go. Do you try to get into the cloud and convince it needs to go to the left instead of what it's doing? No, but that's what we do with the thinking. We get engaged in it, which fuels the thinking more. And then that gets us to leave our body and leave our feeling space and leave the here now. And it's all fear-based and mistaken identity-based. That's really where the hook of it is. And then we're out of flow. Yeah, Rafa.
Just because you mentioned it there for a second, I think you might have brought it up earlier. So this derails us. It's fine. But how do you reconcile? What's your go-to response to reconciling predefined destiny with accountability and responsibility?
Mm-hmm. How do we reconcile predestiny with responsibility
And being accountable.
Something Martha's Don, taught me within the first hour of us working together. He said, the truth feels good, which happened to be an epiphany for me at the time. I had so many sophisticated ways of pushing away feeling good. It shocked me. He said, the truth feels good. The false feels bad. There's your barometer. If I'm feeling bad, there's some place in me I'm clinging to the false or I'm pushing away the truth. And so even if everything is completely scripted out, what's my responsibility here? My ability to respond to this moment in the flow, to let it come through and move through, to move me. And this is moving more and more to that level of it being done through us as opposed to us being the doer. The ego thinks it's doing things, when in fact, when you let go, the energy is moving it through you. Every martial artist knows that. Every jazz musician knows that. You see it all the time.
Can I give an example of this?
Go
Just
ahead, Martha.
recently.
Speak a little louder, please.
An example of this, of letting the flow come through,
Yeah.
happened recently because the anniversary of Don's passing was a year and a half on March 27th. And that night, in the middle of the night, I was awoken with these thoughts. And, we've talked about thinking and thoughts, but it felt like there's a different dimensionality to certain kinds of thoughts.
The source of the thoughts.
The source of the thought. And the thoughts were, and it repeated over and over and over again. And it felt, I knew it was coming from Don, but it was also connected to Yogananda. Eternal joy. I am eternal bliss. Those thoughts kept going for an hour, just revolving in my consciousness. And it felt like it was a totally different dimensionality of thought. It was like a reality, like feeling it as truth.
Yeah. The truth feels good.
The truth feels good.
Now, you bring up an important distinction. Thank you for doing that and for sharing that. There's a difference between thoughts and thinking. This is an important one. There's a difference between thoughts and thinking. Thoughts just arise on their own. And what do we do in meditation? We just go into the space. We become wide. We become large. We go into the state of the infinite. And then we just watch thoughts come and they go. Where do they come from? Right? I woke up in the middle of the night one night and I just saw this machine of thoughts, like a pinball machine, out of control. This thought fired off that thought, which fired off that thought, and they just come. But then there's who's the thinker? Mm-hmm. If I am the thinker, which is what most of us think if we're caught in the mistaken identity of being the mind, one of the thoughts that says I am the thinker is just another thought, but that gets me more hooked in and engaged, as opposed to what you were sharing, Martha, where you were just in this space and thoughts were just arising, because thoughts can actually arise from, I'll simplify it, from two different frequencies. We've talked about this. The frequency or the channel, two different channels. Channel of the ego or the channel of source. One feels good, the other one doesn't. Mm-hmm. And so to be open and no longer treat yourself as a thinker, then what happens is the thoughts that come in are attuned to source. I have this big fat book from Paul McCartney. It's called Lyrics. It's like the lyrics of every song he wrote. So it's got like, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds in there. And I wanted to look up the lyrics of song, I forgot which song, song A. And I pick up the book and the title of song B drops into my mind immediately. And I opened the book and it was song B. Hundreds of songs in there.
Amazing.
What's going on here? That's flow.
Mystery.
That's flow. I think I'm going to do this. Oh, yeah? So it's about the letting go is relaxing. Number one, letting go of this thing, the false identity that I'm the thinker. Thinking happens. If I'm the thinker, and thinking makes me feel bad, because when I'm engaged with it, then what's going on is it's the ego engaged with itself. And so everything it generates, at best, is going to be low-level anxiety. Really what it is just in a continuum of anxiety. Because even if I get to a thought where I go, I feel good. The next thought is, how do I keep this around? And then boom, you're right back on the wheel. And so that's never going to work.
It's your ego.
It's totally. And so just start to notice. So the letting go is really fundamentally the letting go of the thinking. And then you start to watch. And then it starts to separate. And then the moment you let it go, you're back to center more and more and more. And the less you're engaged, the more you're grounded in center. And then your attention is focused on center. Where attention goes, energy flows. And then what's going on is that energy comes down from the higher non-physical into the physical body, and that's what drives your neurological connections. That becomes what you call habits. You can see how it's all chained together. So trust, let go. Call in the divine self. Call in the divine nature to show you how your own flow is. Because that's how it works. That's part of the ask and ye shall receive. Just be in flow. And I'm telling you, it's like you just relax from there. Everything's taken care of in your best interest. Okay, Rob, are you...
Yeah, just to ask that question I had in a different way. I think maybe what I was trying to more precisely ask is, what is your guidance to an ego that latches onto the concept of predestiny to either evade responsibility or accountability in this plane of regular life that we're in, or to like shame someone else for using that concept as a way to evade one's accountability and responsibility in this regular egoic relational duality plane?
Can you give me a practical example?
Okay, sure. Like, I don't know, let's say I was supposed to do something for my friend that I promised, and then I just didn't do it, and it was like something really important for them. I'm just like making this up.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. And then rather than feeling like, well, like I know, like ultimately I'm accountable for that, like I should say I'm sorry and whatever. I use this sort of like, well, look, it didn't seem to happen that way. I should be upset with myself. It was predetermined. Like everything's kind of predetermined. I don't, it's like the ego using this concept to not actually hold themselves accountable to something in a normal relational.
Yeah, it's called spiritual bypass.
Spiritual bypassing, exactly. That's
Yeah, that's one form of spiritual bypass, right? The other one is I'm just going to do everything I can do to make myself feel good and avoid feeling bad. That's another form of spiritual bypass. So, well, I mean, it does tie back to what I said where the truth feels good. Okay, so I goofed, right?
Yep.
And I could say, well, all right, let's say it's predetermined to goofed. Well, okay, well, then there's nothing to be concerned about at one level. But then I feel like the bypass part would be, well, I don't even have to apologize to my friend because it's all predetermined. Except if you try to pull that off, it feels bad. Why? Because I'm out of integrity. That feeling bad is a signal telling me that I'm out of integrity with something that's important of a value to me. And so I'm just going to act accordingly. So it's like, what's the barometer? How do I know when I'm in and out of flow? It's that place. Do I feel good? Do I feel peaceful? I think that's a much better signal even than good. That's the one.
Can you give an example of like holding oneself accountable to something that you screwed up on and feeling good?
Yeah, go ahead, Wendy.
Yeah.
I don't know if this,
Yeah.
and then I'll say something, it'll go back to you. We'll see if anything gets answered. But I don't know if you used the word responsibility before. Like, what is our responsibility? The way I see it is awareness. Yes, a lot is predestined, but we have a choice in every moment. A choice to be aware of what's happening and the way we feel. A choice to go with the noise in our head. The choice to get calm and allow it to dissipate. In any moment, we can shift something. It doesn't mean certain aspects of our lives won't still unfold, but we are different in each moment because of the choice we make with every thought, with every incident, with every moment. I
try to use a kind of perspective of which is more loving. If I have a choice to make, which is more loving. And that will determine the direction.
And that's it. And that comes back to what we talk about, where it's like at any moment. So the circumstance that happened, you were supposed to do something for your friend, you didn't. That's what came up through the river. And now your choice is, how are you going to navigate that? And you can navigate it. Basically, it comes down to one of two places. You can go to the ego and go that way, or you can go to source of love and go that way. And you respond from one of those two. You have to respond. You can't do nothing. If you just sit there, you're doing, that's your response, right? But it's really coming down to, do I choose love or do I choose fear?
So it's like holding myself responsible in the situation, the more loving feeling thing.
Yes.
Or in a situation, holding myself accountable, actually not feel loving, and it feels like I'm just beating myself up, and but regardless of what it is, it's just,
and in the second case,
Yeah.
that's the voice of the ego.
right.
And judging yourself
Yeah.
versus,
Which is the voice
Exactly.
Accepting
right.
yourself.
Versus
Right. When you start looking at it in that place, like I really only have two choices in any moment. That is, I mean, to me, that's the beginning and the end of,
love and fear,
that's it.
God and ego.
That is it.
Yeah. It's all back to the same.
And everything flows from that choice, moment to moment. And so the Course says, those are your only two choices. And it says, if you goofed in your mind, choose again. No big deal.
Don't beat yourself up. over
That's
your
it.
errors.
Right. And if you beat yourself up, well, there was a choice too. So now make a new choice.
And then you're carrying the ick to another moment. You're just carrying it forward.
Yeah.
Right.
To hold on to it as long as you want.
Right. That's the interesting thing. Ik doesn't actually have continuity. Ik is recreated moment to moment if I keep choosing the voice of the ego moment to moment.
Oh, that's interesting.
The ego itself, I said this a couple of times ago, and that really put a question mark over your top of your brain, Bob. I said, the ego is actually not an entity. It's not a continuous thing. It thinks it is. It puts out thoughts that says it is. And because you only notice it when you notice the thought, so it seems and appears continuous, but it's not. It's not an entity. There's only one thing that is truly an entity, if you will, and that is continuous, that is, and that is existence. Pure, infinite intelligence exists, and that's what we are. Nothing else exists, which is why A Course in Miracles, the opening line of it says, the Course can thus be summed up like this. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. The only thing that's real is existence, love. The ego tells you it's real. It's not. It has a half-life of 0. It's fascinating when you start to perceive things this way. And so the letting go is simply turn the thinking process over to source. You manage the mind. I've tried. I suck at it. You do it. And if I get all uptight about something, I know there's something probably below awareness that's clinging, that's fixated, that's habitually still hooked into something from an old pattern. The moment I notice it, now I'm aware. And as Wendy pointed out, it always comes to awareness. The moment I'm aware, now I have choice. Okay, here, take this. I give it to the flow. It knows what it's doing. This goes back to everything. It's like why I said, Einstein said you can't solve the problem from the level of the problem that gets created, which is the ego mind creating its own mishugas, as they say in Sanskrit. So you got to hand it over to a higher power. Same thing in the 12-step world, right? Which that 12-step world says it's your best thinking that got you into this addiction.
Right.
You got to go to a higher power. And that's the turning over. That's the release. That's the letting go. That's the surrender, if you will. Let the thoughts go. Let the thinking process go. Let the thinker go. And watch what happens. I'm going to run a 15-minute thing from Ramana Maharshi. Any questions before we change gears?
To surrender is to let go of everything without anticipating or expecting anything in return. Letting go of everything also encompasses abandoning the aspiration to realize the self. Suppose you are holding a red-hot iron ball. Your hand is quivering in unbearable pain. Somebody suggests to you that you let go. If your response is, "What benefit will I obtain if I let go?" will not the other person wonder, "Poor fellow, the pain of holding that dreadful thing in his hand, has it addled his brains?" Samsara is intolerably painful. Why look for reasons to let go of it? If samsara still appears as being acceptable to one, no matter how remotely or infinitesimally so, can they realize the self? One who does not see samsara as actually being the horribly excruciating misery that it indeed really is, will they realize the self? Surrender works only if it is unconditional. That means your mind must be genuinely reconciled to the possibility that anything can happen or not happen, including one's failure to realize the self. Such acceptance must be natural or genuine. For instance, it must not be self-imposed, or these conditions spoken of manipulated in any way. It is so utterly simple that trying to communicate it through words leads us into a hopeless quagmire of complicated sounding ideas. Totally let go, and the self stands realized. That is all there is to realization. On this road, there are no milestones. Your business is simply to surrender and leave everything to me. If one really surrenders completely, there is no room to complain that the Guru has not done this or that. Once we have surrendered to the higher power, that automatically takes care that only the right thing is done at any given point in time. This higher power knows what to do and when and how. The activities destined to be carried on by the body go on of their own accord without any intervention from you. Leave everything entirely to that. But you should not try and judge it. Even if what is done is not to your liking or preference, do not interfere. If you have surrendered, it means that you must totally accept God's will as being the supreme guiding force of your life. And that the exclusive consideration or priority in your life is to not permit your own ideas for your life to come into conflict with the higher power. After perfect self-surrender, only complete acceptance remains. There can be no room for making any complaint about one's perceived defects and deficiency if surrender to God has been genuinely unconditional or without reserve. One who is truly, desperately interested in realizing the self will not bother about whether life in the world proceeds positively or not. If it did not, yet one would not bother about the matter. When the mind becomes introverted owing to the investigation, who am I? And remains merged in the heart, the conditions of outer life automatically continue as destined, owing to the force of past karma. Do not worry about how life in the world would come to be affected if you dedicate your mind to the quest. It may even be that there might be no change in the outer life at all. If you calmly focus on remaining as the beingness of the self, the upheavals and perturbations of the outer world will gradually begin to fade out or distance themselves from you. And you will rest in the Shanti, the peace of the self. While the body's activities and your roles as a person will be automatically fulfilled by the higher power. This is a matter for experience. And you will understand only when you sink yourself deeper and deeper into the bliss of the self, by means of holding the mind steadily in that state, where there is alert consciousness of being, but neither thoughts nor sleepiness. One who has surrendered would not raise any questions. Surrender is not a means to an end. Something that involves doing cannot be surrender. Give up everything and stop caring for anything on the mental plane. That is surrender. Some, when asked to surrender, reply, "Done, Swami. Now when am I going to realize the self?" It is absurd. To surrender is to abandon even the fundamental or primary, arbitrary mental conceptualization, the I thought. If you are yourself not there, who is going to raise doubts or questions? After true surrender, only silence remains.
One of the prayers I start off with in the morning, which helps a lot for this kind of thing, comes from Course in Miracles. It basically says, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to who? Sets things up to be directed all day long.
The last one that you just said?
I said, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom?
Thank you.
Anything else?
Another question that came up at the beginning, you were referencing
Yeah.
something from the Course in Miracles referring to basically mind over matter to a certain extent. Like, the body's not creating anything, the mind is creating everything.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that with the scientific proof of like the body's intelligence sending information up to like the brain and having effects on the mind pretty significantly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Course says the body is a teaching tool. So it's essentially a feedback mechanism that takes the environment and the senses, etc., and the biochemical environment and feeds that back up to the higher intelligence. Think of the physical body as a probe into this plane for the consciousness to operate through. And so when it's clear, when the energy field that moves is clear, it's not impeded by old traumas or clingings, etc., then the energy is free to flow and the health of the body is optimized. Let's see, Andrew's not on, he dropped off the call, but Andrew is an osteopath who's very sensitive at the energy level, and he can feel the vitality levels of the body. And we talk about it whenever we go over there. And I can feel it in me. Like ever since I started connecting the dots and dismantling the idea that the body is capable of creating something on its own, like a cancer or in anything, and that understanding the flow from the higher energies down into the body and the alignment required and letting go of it. And I can tell you that this body feels more vital now than it did 5 years ago. It did, and my MD said that all the tests he ran on my physical, and Andrew tells me that when I go over there, and I can feel it. I mean, they're not telling me something I don't experience. I used to have, when I was off in the corporate world, you know, I was just juggling things. Didn't really clear out a lot of the trauma stuff yet, etc., and my body was showing it up. We know this, you know, we know that when we're hooked in. I know that if I'm hooked into some angry thing, you can almost bet my lower back is going to tell me. You know, when I was a kid, and then my parents with the Holocaust history and all the sadness that was in the family, I showed up with, as the body, the lungs started showing up with asthma, and then pneumonia. And it was all expressing the sadness from the family lineage that was not being dealt with within the family. You know, we all have this. Various things show up for whatever reasons. And so,
Is that implying all maladies of the physical body are psychospiritual en route, though?
yes, in its genesis. And then somebody will say, well, what about somebody who walked into a toxic field? Yeah, well, there is toxicity out here in the field, but then the question is, what is it in your energy field that put you into that toxic field and had enough weakness in your immune system to allow that field to affect you? That didn't happen by chance. And as Ramana Maharshi mentioned, you know, you kind of surrender and then you let the higher power take over everything, and there's still a certain momentum from the karma of that person that's going to carry things through. That may show up and put you in places and this and that whole thing. You can't outrun the universe in that sense. But once you start surrendering, you're no longer contributing to new karma, and then it just starts to move it out. And then the intelligence will actually help you burn off the karma in the easiest possible way. And karma is just momentum from previous actions. And we talked about that at some point. Once you stop thinking of yourself as the doer, then you're not generating new karma. Like when you really embody that, you know, which everybody can get to. It just takes a shift of the mind a little at a time. Okay.